You've probably seen a chart that shows kind of a breakdown of expenses. Labor is a pretty expensive part of any maintenance practice, so I don't want to spend much time there. We got maintenance here. This is maintenance on the equipment. That number can either be really big if you keep things tuned up on a regular basis and keep on track of it. This number can be reduced. If you wait till it gets too extreme, then your maintenance cost is going to go up and your parts is going to go up, which parts I think is in purchases. What we're going to do on Thursday is going to be setting reel to bed knife, height of cut adjustments. And we're going to be doing bench setting. And bench setting means we're going to set it on a table and we're going to check the height of cut. We're going to use a gauge bar or an AccuGauge, which is using a dial indicator to check to see how high it is. So that's from a firm surface. We got reels, rollers sitting on a firm surface, and we're going to check it. Effective height of cut is what the actual height of cut is when you take that cutting unit out into the grass, set it in the grass, and start mowing. And people think that I'm set my reels at 1/8 of an inch, and that's what I'm cutting it at. And that's where that prism gauge that we're going to see comes into effect. Prism gauge tells me when I'm really cutting my grass out. Bench setting of 1/8 of an inch is just a starting point. When you go out there and set the cutting unit in the grass, all the conditions of the grass have an effect on how tall you actually cut your grass. And a lot of people, if they use a prism gauge, will find out they're actually cutting the grass much lower than they think they are. And they can't understand why they're scalping or the grass is wilting and they're burning in the summer because it gets really hot and their grass looks kind of brown. If they actually measure their effective height of cut, it'll be a lot different than they think they are. Bench setting. When we set our bench setting, it's the distance between the top of the bed knife and the bottom of the rollers. And so we're going to use a gauge bar. And if you buy a reel mower, it comes with a gauge bar. Every course should have a gauge bar. It's simply a flat bar with a screw bolted into it. And we're going to measure from the top of the bed knife to the top of this bar. And that bar is sitting against the front and rear roller. That's my bench setting height of cut. And I'm going to set this screw at 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to move either the front roller or the rear roller till it touches. And when both rollers touch, and this is sitting against the top of the bed knife, I've got my initial setting, my bench setting for my height of cut. If you're using an AccuGauge, it's just got a
coming up half an inch. Oh, you want it at 0.5?
And there's a dial indicator.
I wanted
to
it.
tell you exactly what that is in thousandths of an inch. How high is my grass, or how high is my height of cut? Bench setting is what it looks like when you actually cut the grass. And the effective height of cut's affected by several things. One of them is going to be the weight of the cutting unit. Every 10 pounds of weight that's added to a cutting unit is going to change 5/1000ths of an inch height of cut. And what are some things that are going to affect the weight of a cutting unit? If you got buckets that are full of grass or empty of grass, that's going to change the weight of that cutting unit. What are some other things that change the weight of the cutting unit?
Down pressure.
Down pressure.
Some have.
There's a lot of them that have down pressure. What are some other things that we can put on these reels to make them heavier or lighter?
Grease.
If you have groomers or not, grease. I don't know how grease is going to affect it, but it could. Groomers, if you've got groomer gauges or not, a groomer can actually add about 20 pounds to the weight of a cutting unit. Just adding the drive mechanism and the groomer itself. Some of the bigger ones, groomers add as much as 30 to 35 pounds. That's a lot of weight to add to a cutting unit. And 35 pounds, it's going to change this thing almost 15/1000ths of an inch. That's a lot of difference. What are some other things we're going to add?
Different reels, different type reels.
The reels themselves, there's not a huge difference in reels, but the number of blades will affect the weight of it a little bit. What else do we have that's going to change the weight?
Rollers, different types of rollers.
The rollers themselves, this roller here has got solid rubber with a pretty heavy rod in the middle of it. You notice there's a big gap between them. So this gap here is going to sink in a lot more than one that's solid. So The type of roller, this is an aluminum. It's hollow on the inside. It's made out of aluminum. This one here is actually lighter than that one. If you have a grooved roller, this one here actually weighs more than that one because it's solid steel and they machined it with grooves in it. And so the different types of rollers, whether it's metal, if it's got plastic reels, you can buy a roller that's completely plastic except for the center rod. And so the type of material that it's made out of, the size and diameter, you can buy large diameter rollers or you can buy real small ones. And so the diameter, the type of material, all those kind of things really change the height of cut tremendously. So if you've got two machines with different style cutting units on them, one has groomers and one doesn't, and you're trying to mow the same surface area. We'll use greens for an example. If you're trying to cut greens, one with groomers, one without, they're going to have to be set. Their effective height of cut will actually be different. Even though I'm trying to cut the same height, you're going to have to do an initial bench setting different. And so if you set them both at 1/8 of an inch and go out and mow, the one with the groomers is actually going to cut deeper and it may actually scalp the green. And so you're going to have two settings. You want to start out by setting it high and slowly bring the reel down until you get the quality of cut that you're looking for.